the feeling of obsession or possessiveness, whatever one remembers at the time of departure. Yam yam vapi smaranam bhavam tajyante ant kalevaram. At the time of leaving this body, tajyante, to leave it. Tam tam eveti kaunteya sada tad bhavam. Or the other word is antakale cha mameva smaranam muktva kalevaram. Ya priyati samadbhavam nati asti yatra samshaya. Dayashil Prabhu is still not returned. Is not joined.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, he is trying to make it on YouTube.
Achha.
Ganesh Prabhu has not joined.
Okay. So these are the principles. And this principle is perfectly applied by Srila Bhishma Dev here. That he has absorbed his thought on the Supreme Lord Sri Krishna. The subject matter which attracts the dying man becomes the beginning of his next life. Therefore, if one is absorbed in the thoughts of the Supreme Lord Sri Krishna, he is sure to go back to Godhead without any doubt. This is confirmed in Bhagavad Gita 8.5 to 10. So these are all the verses. The principle is given by Krishna here in this 8th chapter, which is also called the death chapter. When I first came to ISKCON, International Society, at that time, this death chapter was being discussed. And the first verse which I heard was Mahamupetya Punarjanma Dukhalya Mashashvat. Napnuvanti Mahatmana Samsiddhi Paramgana. The first information I got was that this material world is Dukhalyam. It is a place of misery for everyone. But very few, those who are awakened, can realize it. Others, those who are in slumber, for those who are in dream, they will always feel that they have the opportunity, or in future they will get the opportunity to enjoy. And they will keep making an effort. So, this was the death chapter. This is called the death chapter, where Krishna reveals that at the time of quitting one's body, what should be one's consciousness, how you should prepare. So this is the examination that we will all have to face. There is no exception to anyone. But what is the preparation for this examination? And it may come at any time without getting the schedule. No one will be scheduled that when this exam will come. So here Bhishma Dev is giving us the lessons to see from him how he prepares. And whoever at the time of death quits his body, remembering me alone, at once attain my nature of this, there is no doubt. Prabhupada is giving the translation from all these verses. Antakale cha mameva smarnam muktva kalevaram ya priyati samadbhavam nasti ati yatra samshaya. This is 5. And whatever state of being one remembers when he quits his body, that state he will attain without fail. Yam yam vapi smaranam bhavam tajyante ant kalevaram tam tam eveti kaunteya sada tadbhav bhavita. Therefore, Arjuna, you should always think of me in the form of Krishna. And at the same time, carry your prescribed duties of fighting. With your activities dedicated to me and your mind and intelligence fixed on me, you will attain me without a doubt. Who remembers this verse 7? Very famous verse. Very simple. Bolo Manoram, which verse is this? 2 verse मैंने बता दिए. I know Dulaman, you should be knowing this verse. You should be knowing the full chapter. Why only the verse? Manoram प्रयास नहीं करते ना भगवद गीता के श्लोक याद करने. He hardly makes an effort and he thinks it is not required. I'm thoroughly enjoying. Yesterday I completed 15th chapter, full 20 verses. And today 16th chapter, all 24 verses. Bolo. Jaldi bolo, Manoram. We are short of time.
It was Tasmat Kaleshu Sarveshu and then
Tasmat Sarveshu Kaleshu. See the translation? I'll show you the translation. Therefore is tasmat. Always think of me, sarveshu, then kaleshu, and then ma manusmara. Then go ahead. अरे लिखा है ना यार, यहाँ सामने देख लो. Translation में it is already there. बोलिए रविंदर. Unmute and speak. बोलो जल्दी बोलो. ये श्लोक नहीं आता तो उसका मतलब वास्तव में कुछ आता नहीं. इतना फंस रहे हो. आधा श्लोक का लाइन तो बता दिया. छोड़ो जाना, फिर हम डिस्कस ही नहीं करते. He who meditates on the supreme personality of Godhead, his mind constantly engaged in remembering it, undeviated from the path, he, O Partha Arjuna, is sure to reach me. One should meditate upon the supreme person as one who knows everything. Kavim Puranam Anushashitanam Anor Aniya Mahato Manya Sarvasya Dhataram Achintya Rupam Aditya Varnam Tamsa Parasta. At the time of the Prayana Kale, Manasa Chalena, Bhaktya Yogo, Yoga Balena Cheva, Rubor Madhe, with fixing his life hair between the eyebrows, and by the strength of yoga, with an undeviated mind, engages himself in remembering the Supreme, in full devotion, will certainly attain to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So Sri Bhishmadev attained the perfection of putting his body at will, and was fortunate enough to have Lord Sri Krishna, the object of his attention, personally present at the time of death. He therefore fixed his open eyes upon him. He wanted to see Lord Krishna for a long time, out of his spontaneous love for him. Because he was a pure devotee, he had very little to do with the detailed performance of yogic principles. Simple bhakti yoga is enough to bring about perfection. Prabhupada is saying he had very little to do with the detailed performance of yogic principles, and simple bhakti yoga is enough to bring about perfection. Therefore, the ardent desire of Bhishmadev was to see the person of Lord Krishna, the most lovable object, and by the grace of the Lord, Shri Bhishmadev had this opportunity at the last stage of his pilgrimage. What are the other Shastric references of the Lord appearing at the time of departure? Bolo. Everyone wants to have this Ante Narayana Smriti. But here it is Ante Narayana's Upasthiti. The Lord is personally present. So difficult to even get a glimpse of remembrance. What to speak of a fortune where the Lord himself is personally present. Where else do we see the reference where the Lord is personally present? The time of his devotee quitting the body. Bolo Pranab.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. One is Srila Haridas Thakur.
Yes, Haridas Thakur, Srila Haridas Thakur. Haridas Thakur said that I cannot bear the separation of seeing your departure. So my desire is that allow me to depart in your presence. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gave that permission. He allowed Haridas Thakur to depart. What a glorious department. Namami Haridasam tam Chaitanyam tam tayat prabhum samastitam tayat murti swanke api nanarthi. that he departed while gazing the beauty of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, keeping his lotus feet on his chest. When he departed, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu lifted him on his lap and danced with him. So this is the perfection. So if the devotee has a desire, Krishna fulfills it. This is what. Therefore, the ardent desire of Bhishma was his ardent desire. This was the only desire Bhishma had, to see the person of Lord Krishna, the most lovable object. By the grace of Lord Shri Bhishma had the opportunity at the last stage of his breathing. Vishuddhidharan hata shubhash tadikshaya vaishu gata yudrshamaha nivritta sarvendya vriti vibramas tushtava janayan visarjan janardhanam. By pure meditation, looking on Lord Shri Krishna, he at once was freed from all material inauspiciousness and was relieved of all bodily pain caused by the arrow's wounds. Thus, all external activities of the senses at once stopped, and he prayed transcendently to the controller of all living beings while putting his material body. The material body is a gift of a material energy, technically called illusion. Gift of the material energy, which is technically called illusion. Why? Because it makes the jiva forget his original identity and identify with the false covering, which is the material energy's gift. Identification with the material body is due to forgetfulness of our eternal relationship with the Lord. For a pure devotee of the Lord like Bhishma Dev, this illusion was at once removed as soon as the Lord arrived. Lord Krishna is like the sun, and the illusionary external material energy is like darkness. In the presence of the sun, there is no possibility that darkness can stand. Therefore, just on the arrival of Lord Krishna, all material contaminations were completely removed, and Bhishma Dev was thus able to be transcendently situated by stopping the activities of the impure senses in collaboration with matter. The soul is originally pure, as are the senses. By material contamination, the senses assume the role of imperfection. What is this material contamination? Prabhupada is saying, the soul is originally pure and so are the senses. But owing to material contamination, the senses assume the role of imperfection and impurity. What is the material contamination? What is the material contamination on the senses? Soul is pure, senses are pure, but there is this material contamination on the senses. What is the material contamination on the senses? Yes, Bharat,
One identifies with the body.
that is already mentioned here. What is the contamination? How this contamination is imposed? It is owing to contamination that one identifies with the body. But where from this contamination is imposed? Yes, Sonika?
Contamination due to use of nature.
Audio is not clear. A little louder, please.
Hare Krishna. Am I
Yes, Hare
audible?
Krishna. Yeah.
The contamination due to modes of nature.
Yes. From the modes, and when the modes come in interaction with the false ego. Principally, it is because of the modes, the three modes. All material contamination was completely removed. So he was in Shuddha Sattva. And Bhishmadev was thus able to be transcendently situated, that is Shuddha Sattva, by stopping the activities of the impure senses in collaboration with matter. Okay. The soul is originally pure, as are the senses. By material contamination, the senses assume the role of imperfection and impurity. By revival of contact with the Supreme Pure Lord Krishna, the senses again became freed from material contamination. Bhishmadev attained all these transcendental conditions prior to his leaving the material body because of the presence of the Lord. The Lord is the controller and benefactor of all living beings. That is the verdict of all the Vedas. He is the supreme eternal living entity among all the eternal living beings. Nityo Nityanam Chetanas Chetananam. And he alone provides all necessities for all kinds of living beings. He alone provides. Thus, he provided all facilities to fulfill the transcendental desire of his great devotee Bhishmadev, who began to pray as follows. Very important. Why the Lord gave this opportunity to Bhishmadev, not to others? Because he had this ardent desire to fulfill the transcendental desire of his great devotee. So Krishna responds according to our desire, not according to our demands. Whatever is the genuine desire, Krishna fulfills. And what to speak of his pure devotee. Shri Bhishma Uvacha Itir Matir Upakalpita Pitarsena Bhagavati Satvata Pungave Vibhumani Swasukham Upagate Kvachit Vihartum Prakritim Upeyush Yadbhava Pravaha. Vishnudev said, let me now invest my thinking, feeling, and willing, which were so long engaged in different subjects and occupational duties, in the all-powerful Lord Shri Krishna. Iti Matir. Mati means one's all attention. And here Prabhupada is saying, explaining it by thinking, feeling, and willing. Upakalpita means it is invested. So, this is the prayer of Vishmadev, that let me now invest my thinking, feeling, and willing, which was so long engaged in different subjects and occupational duties, in the all-powerful Lord Shri Krishna. He is always self-satisfied. What is the word? Self-satisfied? Swasukham. Swasukham. Self-satisfied. He is always self-satisfied, but sometimes being the leader of the devotees, he enjoys transcendental pleasure by descending to the material world. Although it is from him only that the material world is created. Because Vishnu was a statesman, the head of the Kuru dynasty, a great general and a leader of the Kshatriya, his mind was strewn over so many subjects, and his thinking, feeling, and willing were engaged in different matters. Now, in order to achieve pure devotional service, he wanted to invest all powers of thinking, feeling, and willing entirely in the Supreme Being, Lord Krishna. He is described herein as the leader of the devotee and all-powerful. Although Lord Krishna is the original personality of Godhead, he himself descends on earth to bestow upon his pure devotees the boon of devotional service. He descends sometimes as Lord Krishna as he is, sometimes as Lord Chaitanya. Both are leaders of the pure devotees. Pure devotees of the Lord have no desire other than the service of the Lord. And therefore they are called Sattvatas. Very important. They are called Sattvatas. Pure devotees who have only pure desire to serve the Supreme Lord, they are called Sattvatas. The Lord is the chief amongst the Sattvatas. Bhishmadev therefore had no other desire. He was completely free from all material desires. Unless one is purified from all sorts of material desires, the Lord does not become one's leader. The desires cannot be wiped out, but they have to be purified. It is confirmed in the Bhagavad Gita by the Lord himself that he gives his instruction from within the heart of a pure devotee. He is constantly engaged in the service of the Lord. Such instructions is given not only for material purpose only, but for going home back to Godhead. 10.10. For the ordinary man who wants to lord it over material nature, the Lord only sanctions and becomes a witness of activities. But he never gives the non-devotee instructions for going back to God. Three categories are mentioned. For the ordinary man who wants to lord it over material nature, the Lord only sanctions and become a witness of activities. So he is Sakshi. Gatir Bharta Prabhu Sakshi, Nivasam Surinam Suran. And for the non-devotee, he never gives the non-devotee instruction for getting back to God. That is the difference in dealing by the Lord with different human beings. Both the devotee and the non-devotee. He is the leader of all the living beings. As the king of the state rules both the prisoners and the free citizens. But his dealings are different in terms of devotees and non-devotees never care to take any instruction from the Lord. And therefore the Lord is silent in their case. Although he witnesses all their activities and award them the necessary results, good or bad, the devotees are above his material goodness and godliness. They also know Sri Krishna as the original Narayan, because Lord Sri Krishna by his plenary portion appears as the Karno Dakshayi Vishnu, the original source of all material creation. The Lord also desires the association of his pure devotees. And for them only the Lord descends to the earth and enlivens them. The Lord appears out of his own will. He is not forced by the condition of material nature. He is therefore described here as Vibhu or the Almighty. He is never conditioned by the laws of material nature. So I'll stop here. Sonika, your hand is up. You want to ask something? Hare Krishna. So we see how Vishmadev is the greatest of the yogis and how he is in perfect consciousness, completely Krishna conscious. And he is fully prepared to depart from the existing body. Hare Krishna, I'll stop here. If any one of you have any questions, please ask. Very important. How one should be prepared, should prepare at the time of final departure. Don't see any hands coming up. So we'll stop here and tomorrow we'll resume further. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Shri Prabhupada ki jai, Nitai